Hello. So an old friend of mine saw some of my guitar repair videos and said he had an old 12-string guitar which needed fixing. So I've kind of got it and had a little look at it. He did try and repair it with a nut, but didn't make a very good job of kind of putting it in place, and lost all of the pegs. There was like one peg and one string. So the first job was to get the old nut off, and then get the old string off and order some parts. So first of all, I'm just going to give it a little bit of a wipe, a little bit of a clean, as it's now kind of not got any strings on it. Okay, so a damp cloth I think is fine pretty much. You don't want it wet because it's you know, wood, but I think a little bit of moisture just to kind of get all the dirt off and the dust. Okay. Check there's nothing inside. It seems like there's a little bit of Lego. Not sure what that is. Okay, so but we've got a nice kind of clean guitar. I also like the fast fret, as I think I've mentioned in other repair videos, just for sort of polishing the fretboard a little bit. So just make sure it's sort of dry in the relevant places, and then we'll do this while it's got no strings on it, because that's far easier to sort of preserve the neck. And I did sand down where the new nut's going to go. Okay, so then I ordered some parts. I actually ordered it from this guitar repair shop online. They do lots of little kind of parts for various guitars, and ordered a set of pegs. So I actually ordered 2 sets of 6. So I'm hoping these will be fine for new guitar. I ordered black ones just because I thought, you know, black looks a bit cool, and I also ordered sort of a new nut. Let's actually get that out and show you. So is it completely sealed? So a new nut, and again I've ordered black. You can see with the 12 string it's a little bit more intricate. The one that they ordered looked a little bit small, so I did go just ever so slightly bigger, but I think it's just a case of like if it's got a wide neck or not, and then hopefully, yeah, you see it looks like it kind of fits pretty snug and is sort of coming out very well. The old one, when they glued it, just looked a little tiny bit thin. It probably would have been okay without the glue and stuff, but I think just a little bit bigger looks better. I would also suggest when you're putting a nut on, maybe not using glue, because you don't really need it. I mean, really the strings should hold the tension. So what I'm going to try and do is put it all together without glue, and then if needed I'll add some glue, but I don't really think that glue is necessary. So okay, we've got all the new pegs, and we've got the new nut, and we also ordered a set of 12 strings. So you can see on the back it's a little bit more complicated. In fact, it's quite a lot more complicated than a regular 6-string guitar. So you can see on the sort of the thick string you've got kind of a paralleled sort of thin string. So, well, the first set is pretty much like you'd expect a set of 10. So these are light strings, so 10, 14. So you might recognise some of those numbers. But then you've got another set. The E string is doubled and the B string is doubled. But then from the G, you've actually got sort of an octave higher, I think. But I will look that up. So it is a little bit more complicated, which gives this sort of jangly 12-string sort of sound. And I've never really played a 12-string, so this is a new experience for me. But first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. So generally they're not trying to confuse you. Generally they will put them in sort of packets. So first has both of the first strings. So I think I'm going to start with that this time. So your first string, and you see there's two first strings. So but because they're the same, I think that might be a little bit easier. And I did watch a little video of someone with a new technique of how to sort of thread them through. So let's just put these two on. It's a little bit fiddly as always, and get our set of pegs. So I'm hoping these pegs do the job. They look pretty good. So you've got to kind of, yeah, that's fine. So you kind of push the sort of the ball bearing thing on the end of the string kind of locks, and there's a groove in the peg, so that'll sort of lock in place, and then basically the string, yeah, will come, and you can see already it's kind of looking like two strings sort of next to each other, a bit more like a kind of mandolin sort of sound or whatever. And then if we go up here, obviously the nut is not there because I've not glued it in, but let's just do this one first. So what the suggestion, I always quite like doing a little loop first, but if you kind of do, if you pull it, what did he say? Let me just check. So I think what he was saying is go through and pull it, have a bit of slack, and then go round, so under it. This is kind of what I do normally anyway, but there's a little technique. So you kind of make sure there's a bit of slack, pull it tight, and then sort of thread it round like that. And that should hold it. It does, in place. So that should make it a lot easier than, I never did that little tying trick when I was putting strings on. And I'm not going to tune them yet, but okay, this is the first one where we have different thicknesses of string on what would originally be the third string, so the G string. So this is the G string, okay, and this is another string. So another string which I believe will probably be G but an octave higher. Okay, so if we put them both on, if I'm looking at the grooves, the thicker groove is sort of at the far side. So we'll put the thicker one on sort of in this hole, which is kind of like basically just the normal hole for the guitar, and then you've got another set of 6 holes behind it. So I think the thinner one is going to sit sort of behind the thinner one is going to sit behind the thick normal G string. So again, I'm going to put them both in as I did before. Okay, so like I say, I've not put any glue on the nut. So again, we'll see if that's okay. Should be. I'm not 100% sure about the new stringing technique, but okay, so let's see how we get on. This time I'm going to go from the other end, so I'm going to go from the thickest, the 6th string. Okay, so again we've got a thick low E, just like on normal guitar, and a kind of a thinner string which will be an octave higher, and the first one goes in the first set of holes just like you would with a normal guitar, and the second one sort of sits behind it like so, and then they pull up. So generally you want these strings to kind of come a bit like a flower. I think of them as they're coming up the middle and then out. Well, the middle and out, depending on which way they go. So what I've done in the past is just done a loop and pull, and I think that's my old method, and I think I probably actually prefer it. Maybe not for the top strings, but yeah, it's a little bit quicker. Maybe it's just what I'm used to, I don't know, but yeah, the idea of giving slack, I find that giving one loop for these strings is normally enough. And like I say, in terms of tightening some, I'm going to need to tighten it a bit to sort of hold this nut in place. So let's do that. Okay, it's pretty straightforward so far, because you can't really go wrong with which way round the thick one is. It's sort of it has to be in one of the two grooves, and it has to go to one of the ends, sort of the correct peg end. I mean, so far I've not really done a lot of kind of thinking about which is which I'm pleased about. So 5th string, we've got A. So our normal A for a normal guitar, and then our octave higher A. And like before, the A is in the nearer slot, and the other A is behind it. And then I'm going to peg the last two before I start tuning anything up. So this is the 4th string, the last one. So the D string, so we have a low D like normal, and then a thin one to go an octave above it. So when you're playing a 12-string guitar, my belief is that you're just doubling everything really. So all of the chord shapes and things are pretty much the same as you would do on when you're playing a normal guitar. You get this sort of jangly sound of like an octave above. Through. Okay, and then look at that. Wow, so we've got all 12 strings, and yeah, the nut seems pretty stable already, and that's not even got any tension on it, so I don't think there's a need for gluing it. Okay, we are getting there. Look at that. Okay, the other thing to be aware when you're adding some tension is to make sure these pegs don't pop out, because you know, there's tension there and they need to be pushed in a little bit. Okay, so we are definitely getting there. And I've just ordered the bridge, or saddle it's called. So this little part is going to go, I guess it's called the saddle, and it's going to go on the end. There you go. Is that going to autofocus? Okay, so we've got this bit called the saddle, which goes on the bridge of the 12-string guitar. So it's going to go back here, and then kind of basically it will push the strings up, so they're held between sort of the nut, which I've replaced, and the saddle, and that gives the full tension. I couldn't get a black one, so kind of this is the kind of more traditional sort of creamy white colour. So the strings have been at tension for a couple of days now while this part's been in order, but I do need to loosen it in order to then pull the kind of the strings away a bit to get that part in. So I'll just loosen the strings now. It's looking good. Let's see if we can do this. So probably needs to be a bit looser still, I reckon. I reckon it's still too tight. I hope I won't have to take all the strings off. And there we have it. Okay, so that's quite quite a large saddle, but it's pretty sturdy. So I think that's going to be good for us. So it kind of it comes out a bit further than I expected in terms of how high it is, but I think that's going to be better than low, certainly. And now you can see sort of the strings kind of have their full support sort of coming from the saddle at the bridge to the nut. So the nut's now kind of a little bit kind of wobbly again because I've taken all the tension out of the strings. So now we'll try and tighten again to a tension. Looks too high, doesn't it? I think. I wonder why it's such a high saddle. But okay, so I've just looked up about the saddles, and I mean this is a really good quality bone saddle, so it does recommend that you sand it down. So I've got some sandpaper and I'm just going to have a go at actually adjusting it rather than buying a new one, because I don't know that I need to buy a new one. So I'll do the same process, just on let's have a look again. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I showed you before, so it's very, very high. I reckon I want to take a good 3mm off that. So the way that they suggested to do that was to sand it. So if I get some sandpaper, which I've got, luckily, so I'll use the back of the guitar, I think that'll be fine. And then we just do that, and that's quite a nice smooth finish. So I reckon, yeah, what, that's 0.5mm maybe, so I need to... So I can see it's coming off. That already looks better. Still not perfect, but better. And they did suggest measuring it from the old one, but as I've not got the old one, I'm just guessing a bit. But it still looks a bit high, but not as ridiculous. This is actually fine sandpaper, so really you could use coarse sandpaper to make it quicker. Okay, I'm a lot happier with that. Let's just check. One thing I didn't check is that there was nothing sort of in the groove. It looks all right. And let's see what that looks like. And compared to another guitar, so you can see what's that sort of up to there on my finger, what, maybe 2mm, and this is still a little bit high. I think as I've got it down, as I've got it all unattached, I'm going to carry on sanding. Still not quite there. I also don't want to make it too low. That's a lot better. Yeah, I can see where the groove was. It's still quite high action, so I will explain that you could you could sand that even more. The other thing I just wanted to look at was this. So underneath this, just as it's so loose, I possibly wanted to just sand that a little bit more as well. Or even just scrape it away. Okay, that's a bit better. Okay, so I'm just going to tune it up again and add some tension. I think it's probably better, having done this a couple of times now, to add tension sort of on one of the upper strings and one of the lower strings to hold it in place, and then go for the middle strings sort of afterwards. So we are almost untangled. Wow, okay, that took a while, but yeah, they're untangled now and they're on the saddle, and the action doesn't look too bad. It doesn't look too bad. Okay, so right, let's try putting it to a near in tune pitch now. Okay, we've now got, not in tune, but it is getting there. It's getting there. I'm happy with that as not a ridiculously high action. But yeah, obviously you can alter that. You can take that off. Similarly, that looks a lot better now. It's I've just filed it, but yeah, you can kind of see maybe from the glue before, if you remember the glue at the beginning, sort of it's a little, it could, you could file it a bit more if you wanted to, but I don't want to over file it. I am just going to clean it a bit because I think because of all that dust, it's just got a little bit dusty, so it's probably good to give it a clean at this point so I don't keep spreading the dust everywhere. And then I'll give it a proper tune. So you don't want it kind of massively wet, but I think a moist rag seems to do the trick for me, really. I think it's fine. Like with any tuning, you want to sort of leave the strings sort of for a day or two before you cut these ends, because you might need to make adjustments still. Right, let's just see if we can now use a tuner. So clipped my tuner on the end. I think I did that before for you. Okay, so I just looked up the octave, and the thin string should be an octave higher than I was doing it. So if I look at, just done the E string, if I look at the A, I've kind of done it so they're the same the pitch, but that's not correct. So should sound a bit more like that. Sounds nicer, doesn't it? Same with D. So to get the low to that D, that was really loose, so that's what was not providing enough tension. Same for G. So I did actually do G correctly before, but because the others were incorrect. Oh, yes, it's getting there. It is definitely getting there now. I think it's fair. I'm not going to buy a 12-string guitar, but okay. Okay, I think we are there. So the strings will take a little bit of time just to settle their tuning, but it's sounding like a 12-string guitar. It is correctly pitched. It's a beast. Okay, so I wasn't overly happy, so I've had another go at filing this saddle down a little bit more, and I've also had a go at just filing where the nut was. So it's looking a lot better now, and I'm hoping that that will just provide a better quality finish. So I need to just align these. In fact, maybe I'll put the saddle on first. So it does actually kind of slide in quite nicely, because you've got a kind of a slightly kind of angular sort of shape. If I just show you, you can kind of see it's not all the same size, so that side can sort of slide in, which hopefully means I don't have to take all the strings off, and that should provide, yeah, make it a little bit easier. So you can kind of lift the strings up with your fingers. There we go. And then just going to sort of even the strings out a little bit. So each time I'm getting a little bit more efficient, as with repairing anything. That I am very happy with. Okay, so that all looks really good. I'm really pleased with that. And now I just need to sort of decipher which string goes where on this end. So this thing one's hiding. So finish car to there, I think. I'll finish the third across. Okay, so that's under. There we go. So 1, 2. There we go. So it's like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And they're all there. Yeah, like I say, well, I mean, if you did it in the right order, I got all the parts first. It shouldn't be quite as complicated as I've made it, but I think it is still pretty complicated. It's certainly not an easy thing to do, a 12 string compared to a 6 string. Just making sure nothing is overlapping too much. That's correct already, I think. That's correct already, it's just these two need to come. And yeah, that feels so much nicer. Like I say, the glue was really sort of creating quite an not nice sort of connection at that point, and the saddle, like we saw, was just too far away. But that just seems like a much closer action, which is just going to be much more enjoyable to play. So now we need to tune it again. So these strings are getting more used to being at their normal pitch. Okay, so and then we can check it's all. The danger is, obviously, if you go too close, then you lose the kind of the point of the saddle, and you don't get any sort of the action's too close, so it kind of ends up with fret buzz. But I think I've done it sort of a couple of times, getting a bit closer, and now hopefully that's correct distance. Let's see. So the G string is the one that I don't like. And it's gone out of tune again. So that G string is just... Okay. One thing I would say is these are light strings and they already feel quite full on your fingers, because each time you're playing each fretted note of a chord, you're having to push twice as many strings. So it's definitely not a beginner instrument. But that sounds... You don't tend to do bar chords on a 12 string. Yeah. One thing I could also do is with these sort of untidy ends, just sort of bend them round a bit. So don't cut them, like I say, quite yet. Give it a day or so to settle. But I probably will cut them tomorrow, because I think that's pretty much there. And it just makes it look a little bit more kind of finished. I'm not that sure about that method of tying the string on, in terms of like it creates a little knot, so I don't know if I'm that keen on that. Looks alright though, it's fine. But yeah, let it settle and then tune it. Okay, thanks for watching. Okay, see you next time. Bye bye.